There's a lot going on behind the scenes with the Denver Broncos, and man, we need to talk about it. Even though the 2026 season hasn't started yet, conversations about 2027 are already gaining traction for a simple reason: the salary cap. Current projections suggest Denver will have very limited financial flexibility heading into the 2027 season. And while those figures could shift through restructures, releases, or contract extensions, the reality is that tough financial decisions are part of any successful NFL franchise. There are a few points regarding the projected salary cap impact that I need to break down for you. But before we dive in, make sure you hit that like button. Only do it, though, if you've been a Broncos fan for over 17 years. It's great to see fans of all ages here. If you want, drop a comment saying, "Go Broncos! Nothing's going to stop us." When looking at the projected salary cap impact, the importance of this discussion becomes immediately apparent. Several veteran players are set to take up a huge chunk of the budget, including Courtland Sutton, Mike McGlinchey, Jalen Waddle, and Garett Bolles. Add to that the expectation that Bo Nix will eventually land a significant contract extension, and suddenly the Broncos find themselves needing every bit of financial flexibility they can create. That's why trade discussions often start long before players actually hit free agency. The first name that stands out is Troy Franklin. It's worth noting, to avoid any misunderstanding, that this discussion isn't about questioning Troy Franklin's talent. In fact, he has shown clear improvement since his rookie season. The question isn't whether he has the ability to play, but rather whether Denver can actually offer him the opportunity he needs, given the current roster makeup. Think about everything that has changed. The addition of Jalen Waddle completely reshapes the receiver room. Courtland Sutton remains one of the team's primary targets. Pat Bryant continued earning more opportunities as last season progressed. Marvin Mims Jr. has developed into a unique weapon with his ability to stretch defenses and contribute on special teams. Then there are blocking specialists like Lil Jordan Humphrey and Hakeem Butler, plus receiving threats out of the backfield such as R.J. Harvey and Jonah Coleman, along with the tight ends. There are only so many footballs available every Sunday. No matter how explosive an offense becomes, someone inevitably sees fewer opportunities. And that's where Franklin's situation becomes fascinating. Last season already hinted at this trend. As Pat Bryant's role increased later in the year, Franklin's snap counts and routes began to fluctuate. When Bryant was healthy, Franklin's involvement wasn't nearly as consistent as many expected after his promising off-season development. Then Denver went out and acquired Jalen Waddle. That move alone naturally creates even more competition. The concern isn't necessarily that Franklin can't contribute. It's whether his specific skill set has a clear path toward becoming one of the offense's primary weapons. He's known as an excellent route runner, but questions remain regarding consistency, catching the football, and winning contested situations. Compared to Sutton's physical style, Waddle's explosiveness, Bryant's intermediate game, and Mims's versatility, Franklin finds himself searching for a clearly defined role. That's why some observers believe Denver could eventually consider moving him, not because his value has disappeared, but because it may actually be close to its highest point. In the NFL, timing often determines whether a trade becomes successful. Teams rarely trade players after disappointing seasons because their value has already dropped. Instead, organizations frequently move players immediately after productive years, while they're still young, affordable, and attractive to other franchises. Franklin remains on his rookie contract. That alone makes him an appealing asset. A young receiver with upside, controlled salary, and previous production can become valuable draft capital if another team believes he simply needs a larger opportunity. We've already seen Denver make similar decisions. Last year, the Broncos found themselves with a crowded receiver room before eventually moving Devin Vail to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for draft compensation. While the circumstances aren't identical, the philosophy could be similar. When a position becomes overloaded, sometimes maximizing future assets becomes the smartest long-term strategy. If another organization believes Franklin could become a starter with increased targets, Denver may receive an offer that's difficult to ignore. Again, none of this guarantees a trade happens. But from a business standpoint, it's easy to understand why his name continues entering these conversations. The second player creating discussion may surprise even more Broncos fans: Ben Powers. Unlike Franklin, this isn't about depth at wide receiver. This is about financial flexibility along the offensive line. Ben Powers has been a dependable starter since arriving in Denver. Nobody is arguing that he's a poor player. In fact, he's been a reliable contributor. However, when evaluating the offensive line as a whole, some believe he represents the most replaceable starter simply because of the organization's recent investments. His current cap number is among the highest on the offensive side of the football. According to the available information, moving him around the trade deadline could create significant salary cap savings that would roll directly into the following season. That's where Denver's off-season decisions become important. The Broncos drafted Cage Casey, a versatile offensive lineman capable of playing multiple positions. His flexibility gives the coaching staff developmental options throughout training camp, preseason, and the opening weeks of the regular season. If Denver believes Casey develops quickly enough, the front office could feel much more comfortable considering future moves involving veteran linemen. There's another factor as well. Alex Palczewski demonstrated last season that he could step into the lineup when needed. While his overall production may not have been elite, the statistical comparison presented suggests his pressure rates weren't dramatically different from Powers' production. That doesn't necessarily mean he's the better player, but it does suggest Denver may already have internal options capable of handling increased responsibility if necessary. That's incredibly valuable in today's NFL. Whenever a team believes it has younger, cheaper replacements developing behind established veterans, trade conversations naturally begin, especially when draft picks and salary cap relief become part of the equation. Offensive linemen are consistently among the most sought-after players near the trade deadline because injuries across the league create immediate demand. If another playoff contender suddenly needs help protecting its quarterback, a dependable veteran like Powers could become an attractive target. From Denver's perspective, the equation becomes straightforward. Receive draft compensation, create cap flexibility, allow younger talent to develop, continue preparing financially for future contract extensions. Whether fans agree or disagree with that philosophy, it's a reality every successful organization eventually faces. Building a championship roster isn't only about identifying great players. It's also about knowing when to make difficult decisions before circumstances force your hand. That's what makes both of these names so interesting. Neither player has done anything wrong. Neither player is considered a disappointment. Instead, they're simply positioned in situations where roster depth, financial planning, and future flexibility intersect. If Denver ultimately decides to move Troy Franklin, it would likely be because his market value remains strong while opportunities within the offense continue shrinking. If the Broncos eventually move Ben Powers, it would likely reflect confidence in their younger offensive line options, combined with the financial benefits such a move could provide. At the end of the day, these remain possibilities, not guarantees. NFL front offices constantly evaluate dozens of scenarios that never actually happen. But understanding the financial side of roster construction helps explain why seemingly surprising trades sometimes occur without warning. Championship-caliber organizations are always thinking 1 or even 2 years ahead. The Broncos appear to be building toward sustained success rather than chasing one single season. Sometimes that requires making unpopular decisions today to create bigger opportunities tomorrow. And that's exactly why these conversations deserve attention long before any trade becomes reality.